If you're heading out on a trip to Italy to choose your wedding venue, then you need to hear this episode. The tour is going to be quick, it's going to be overwhelming, and I want you to go in with the very best advice so you get your dream venue. Ciao, I'm Lucy. I'm a wedding planner and the founder of Lista.com. My goal is to help couples planning Italian weddings to have the very best time doing so and have ultimately the very best wedding day that you can. I want you to have a hassle-free wedding planning experience, to be able to trust your suppliers, trust your decisions, and ultimately have stress-free planning. So before you go out on your wedding venue trip, you should really know a hell of a lot about your venues. It's not a good idea to go over to Italy and see 12 or more venues, have a kind of rough idea of what they're about, and try and find your wedding venue. The best approach is to really investigate your venues before you go out. Be really ruthless with yourself and see like 3 or 4 venues, but you're going to check that these venues are what you expect and what you understand them to be. You're going to go and get a feeling of the venue, and then you'll be able to choose the one. What you're not doing is going on like a house hunting tour to see loads and loads of venues and just kind of understand more about them, ask all the questions that you think that you have. When you arrive at those venues, if your approach is to get the information when you're there, you are not going to get it. The venue are not going to sit down with you and go through 100 questions. They're going to say that it's all in their information or that they'll send it to you. This is about getting that information before you go, and you're literally going to sense check that you think the venue that you want is the one. So we've got a tick list on Lista.com, which is called our venue tick list, and in it, it's got 16 questions that you do need to answer for yourselves when you're there. Some of these are questions for the venue, some of them are things you just need to check yourselves. I'm going to go through what I think are the 5 most important areas today. So the first one is the quality of rooms. When you're looking around, are the rooms good enough? Are the bathrooms nice? Is everything clean? Are the mattresses good quality? Is the bedding good quality? Are you going to be able to feel comfortable having your guests stay here? And are you comfortable with what they're going to pay? Does what they're going to pay match what they're getting? Because later down the line, this will cause you stress if you have not checked this and if you have not kind of fully work this out for yourselves. When you're there, check the number of beds in every room, the number of sofa beds. You need to literally draw a map for yourself, because not all venues have a map. They don't even always have a breakdown of the number of rooms, and it's unclear. You can see why if you're going to see 12 venues, there is no way that you're going to be able to do this for every venue. But if you're seeing 3 and you're choosing between those 3, it's much more realistic. You're going to remember them. So take pictures of every room. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but you will regret it when you get home if you have not drawn this map and if you've not taken pictures of everything. Because when you come to map who is where, it's a really difficult exercise, especially if you haven't got this information. The next thing is when you're driving around the area, go and see the accommodation that you might put guests in down the road. Again, you're probably not going to get back to Italy that soon. When you're there, it's important to absolutely make the most of the time you've got. It's really important that your guests are going to have a really good experience at your wedding. That will affect the whole atmosphere. So just go and sense check that where you're going to put your guests, or suggest that they stay, is really nice as well. Something that you do need to get the venue to sit down and do with you is go through the costs. So before you go, you could even ask them for a contract. If you have a draft contract, it should have all of the costs and all of the rules in it, and you could make them sit down with you and go through it, because not every venue puts every cost or rule in their contract, and it is a huge bugbear of mine. But you need to know everything about this venue before you book it, because you cannot get further along in planning and find out that there is a music restriction, that you cannot use a certain space that you thought, that you can't have your guests come and use the swimming pool the day after the wedding, that there is a fee for having guests come and use the swimming pool. You need to know all of that before you make the decision to book the venue. So at the end, usually of a tour, they will sit you down for a minute to have questions, get out your contract, be a nutter, and make them go through it with you. This is a huge commitment in your wedding planning and in your life, and it is going to affect genuinely how you feel for the next 1 or 2 years of your life. So get it right now. As I mentioned, in the venue tick list, I've got every single thing that you might have as a rule in there, but some of them would be, can the catering use the kitchen on the wedding day? Is there a fee for this? Are there extra cleaning fees? Are there tourist tax fees? All of the different fees that may apply. Can you host other events? Is there a cost to this? Is there a music agreement? Do you have to go to a certain time? Do you have to move inside at a certain time? Can external guests come and use the pool? Is there a fee for this? Are there any suppliers that the venue asks that you must use? Are there any rules around putting up tents, when you can do it, where you can do it? Sometimes when you look around venues, they already have decorations up, they have lights up, but sometimes they ask ask you to pay for those even though they're up. So just check, are they included? Get it written down. Sometimes when you're on your tour, they'll just say yes, it's included, and then afterwards you'll find out that it is not included and there is a fee for it. So this is why at the end of that meeting, going through it, writing it all down and doing it with the person is absolutely key, because then you're not going to second guess yourself. There's no like gaslighting. You're not going to look back and think, did they say that? You know, because you wrote it down when you were there. A final thing to check is who is going to be the contact on your wedding, because you might meet someone, they might not be the person that manages your wedding throughout the planning, they might not be the person that you talk to, and that can be really disappointing. So you could have a really good connection with that person and feel really confident in them, and then you get handed over to someone else. Maybe that person's not going to reply as much, maybe they're not going to know as much about the venue. If you have a really good connection with that person, it would be really good to keep them throughout your wedding planning. So just make sure that you find out who that's going to be. If you can meet that person in reality, it means so much more to have met a person and shook their hand. Once they know who you are and that you're a real human, then it really does make a difference to your wedding planning and how the relationship goes and how they treat you. So just try and do that. You'll get a vibe. Some venues that you enter, you straight away feel this energy that you are another couple having another tour, and that you're on a strict time frame to see the venue. They'll answer your questions, but you just get this vibe that you're not quite connected, or you're not that important in the grand scheme of them and their venue. And obviously I would suggest that that is not the type of place that you want to be having your one and only wedding, which is super important to you, but maybe not on a level playing field with how important it is to them. I would definitely bear that in mind when you make your venue decision, because if you feel like that on your tour, that's probably going to go through all the communications that you have with them, and even maybe how it feels on your wedding day. So just bear that in mind as well. So picking your venue really is such an important decision in your wedding planning. It's probably up there as the top 3 most important parts of your wedding planning. So if you want to get it right, I really encourage you to go and get our venue tick list. It has everything you need to think about when you're setting your venue criteria, when you're shortlisting your venues, and when you're out on your trip. It's just £10 on lalista.com. Thank you so much for being here today. I will see you next time.